video that I want to release, and I'm quite excited about this because for a long time I've been wanting to talk to you all about what is a herniated disc and how yoga can actually help people if they have got herniated discs. Now, if you don't know what that is, maybe you've heard of the term slip disc. Have you ever heard of someone with a slip disc and they've got a really nasty back pain and they've got pain that kind of radiates all the way down their legs? Well, basically a slip disc, although it gives you a good idea that someone's got something wrong with their discs, it's a slightly incorrect term because it basically makes you visualize that here are the bones of someone's back and in between there's a disc that's maybe popped out. Actually, what a structure of the disc looks like is, imagine a jelly donut. You've got this kind of harder exterior and then inside you've got a kind of soft gooey bit. Now these are basically your shock absorbers and they are incredible structures. They can withstand some pretty intense force. But occasionally they put under so much pressure and so much stress that a little tear will happen and then the contents of the disc will leak out. And normally something like that will happen and it won't be a big deal. Maybe the person won't even know it's happened. But if the contents of the disc leaks out and starts to touch a nerve, that's when some serious problems will start happening. You get a lot of radiating pain transferred all the way down the back of the leg. Now, you might be thinking, is yoga good or a bad thing for it? Well, actually, yoga can be both. Yoga can be good for a herniated disc, but also bad. Why? Because the thing is, with a herniated disc, here are the two bones of your back, and in between here is the disc. Let's say all the nerves are this side, closer to you. When the outside of your disc splits and the inner fluid starts to leak out, if it touches one of the nerves, that's when you're going to get that radiating pain. So what you got to do is you've got to remember that if you start doing lots and lots of flexion, the bulge is going to get bigger. So flexion is any forward movement. So if you imagine the tear is at the back part of the spine, the tear happens, now I'm doing lots of flexion, the bulge is going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, a bit like this toothpaste. If I squeeze this side, then all the fluid goes this way. But what yoga can be really good for are all the back bends. Because what a back bend does is it basically forces the fluid to go back in. And that really helps to alleviate the symptoms. So if you are someone who has got a herniated disc, or maybe you get a lot of pain when you move into forward folds, then my advice to you is to practice lots of back bends, because if it is a herniated disc, you'll be pushing the fluid of your disc back into its socket, and that will help. Now, I thought another really cool thing that we could do in this video is I could just show you a few gentle back bends that are really good to practice if you have got a herniated disc. So if that's you and you want to learn more, then keep watching. My absolute favorite back bend to teach anybody who comes to my class with a herniated disc is Fink's pose. Because Fink's pose, you don't actually have to work that hard in your upper body, especially if you're a beginner. It's a really nice thing to do. It kind of builds a measure of strength in the shoulders and in the muscles of the back, but it's really relaxed. You can put your forearms down like this and you can just draw the shoulders down, and it's a really nice way to kind of gradually ease you into back bends. Of course, it's really great to strengthen the muscles of your back if you have got a herniated disc, so occasionally doing an unsupported cobra is a really good idea as well. Now, I absolutely love bow pose, and what I love about bow pose is there's so many different ways of doing it. So for example, I think I said in one of my previous videos, if you are a beginner and maybe grabbing both feet behind your back is too much, you can just grab one foot, which is a really nice strengthener, and then as you get more confident with your back bends, you can grab both. The next pose that I want to share with you is camel pose, and one of the reasons I really love camel pose is because it gives you the sense that you're almost in standing. Even though you're on your knees, it's the same kind of extension through your back, so it's going to have a great transferable effect into all your other activities. And also, the other cool thing is you don't actually have to go through flexion to get into this pose. You can start in standing, and then you can just kneel down and place your hands on your hips, and then you want to think of pushing your pelvis forwards and then leaning your chest backwards. Now, it's really important to just mention that a lot of times people will have very weak glutes, and that can be part of the reason that they develop back problems. So please, when you're practicing your back bends, fire up your glutes. And then when you're doing a pose like camel and you've got your hands on your back, you should actually be able to feel the muscle activity underneath your hands, which is always really inspiring. And then when you start getting more confident with this camel pose, you can maybe reach one hand back first, and then eventually the other hand. And then as your flexibility grows, you can point your toes and you can come into the full pose. Earlier on in my videos, I explained to you that it's best to avoid any flexion, anything where the body kind of goes forwards. So when you are moving through your sun salutations, I recommend think of keeping your lower back ultra flat. The most important thing to remember is no flexion, right? So when you start in your sun salutations, after you've brought your arms up, you're just naturally want to go down into the forward fold, and there'll be a measure of flexion in your lower back. So what I want you guys to think about, if you have got a herniated disc, is bend your knees loads, and then think about lengthening your lower back. And you see how I've got a little arch in my lower back? And actually, you never want to go really, really deeply down towards your toes. Now, if you're like, but Sel, my hamstrings are so tight, I really want to stretch them, you can still stretch your hamstrings. Even if you have that flat lower back and you start pointing your fingers down, I can already feel it here, and I'm quite flexible in my hamstrings. So this is a really great stretch. Then as you flow through your salutation, you want to keep that lower back arched. Slight arch in the lower back always. Of course, here back bends are fantastic, so you want to stick with those. But downward dog, again, be careful. Keep your knees bent, and again, do that very long lower back thing. Oh, the carpet's moving. Keep that very long lower back and that slight lift of the tailbone. The part that most people struggle with is when they're in their downward dog and the teacher says to jump or step forward. You have to be so careful here, because you will be taking your lower back into flexion. So the best thing to do is when you're here, actually bring your knees down and then step your feet forwards so that you're always maintaining that lower back lumbar curve. Thanks again for watching. Remember, if you enjoyed these videos, please subscribe for more videos. Give me a thumbs up, and I can't wait to see you next week. Till then, bye guys.